Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and we are back for one last time for the very last Vault Hunter that is coming up in Borderlands 4, and that is, what's her name? Harlowe. Should know that. Harlowe the Gravatar. So this is a scientific type character, I believe. So let's get to it. Let's see what this character's about. So, Harlowe's abilities breakdown. So the Gravatar Vault Hunter trait, Entanglement. Whenever Harlowe uses her action skill on enemies, those enemies become entangled. Entangled enemies share a portion of gun damage and skill damage with other entangled enemies. So basically, you tag them with an action skill, they'll become entangled, and now they take damage because they're all connected. Sounds pretty good. A bit of wind blowing in there, my door's going. Right, so the action skills that she has is Chroma Accelerator, Fire and Unstable Energy Pocket from Harlowe's Chroma Accelerator. The Unstable Energy Pocket passes through enemies and deals cryo damage to all enemies it passes near. Pressing action skill causes it energy packet to explode and deal heavy radiation damage. Oh, that's interesting. So there's cryo, or you can blow it up. So it's a big old explosive thing. Sounds like she's going to do a lot of damage via cryo and or radiation. 0 point. Press action skill to use Harlowe's Halo Accelerator to place an enemy in stasis for a duration. Enemies immune to stasis take damage instead. Pressing action skill again causes the enemy in stasis to be slammed into the ground in the direction of Harlowe is facing and creates a small explosion. So you pick them up and then you can slam them down. That's pretty cool. Retriggering stasis has a cooldown, okay. And then Flux Generator. Harlowe throws her Flux Generator in front of her, which projects an energy field dealing cryo damage over time and entangling enemies. Allies in the energy field gain overshield. Press the action skill again to pick it up and toss it again. Oh, that's cool. So you just... They seem pretty straightforward, I will say that much. So... Alright, so let's have a look at the first tree then. This is Creative Bursts. I'm assuming one of these trees is going to have a lot of ice in it, so we shall see. Cyclotron. Harlowe gains increased fire rate. Easy. Need I say more? That's just good. PPE. Nice. I like that as a name for a skill. Harlowe gains increased maximum shield capacity and shield recharge rate. Again, basic. Good. Field Ready Prototype. Harlowe gains increased action skill damage. Could be good. For doing ice damage and stuff with the... In fact, doing any of them probably quite good. So just flat out straight buffs to 3 different things. Bleeding Edge. Harlowe gains increased reload speed. Yep, good. Nothing more to say on that one. Void Star. So this is an augment. Whenever Harlowe's unstable energy pocket passes by an enemy, it loses a portion of its current total health and becomes frozen. So whenever an enemy passes by, it loses a bit of its health and freezes. That seems pretty good. Just to freeze the enemies is good because it means they're not firing at you. Straight up, seems good. Neutron Capture. All damage Harlowe's unstable energy pocket deals to enemies is stored. Whenever it explodes, a portion of that stored damage is transferred to Harlowe's gun, causing her to deal bonus radiation damage. That's interesting. That's a really interesting ability. So you're absorbing some of their enemies, and once it blows up, now you have bonus gun damage. Okay, cool. That's quite a fun little skill there. Elementary. Harlowe gains increased elemental damage and status effect. I think this is going to be quite big on this character. I mean, all the characters seem to have something to do with one of the status effects, but that sounds pretty big. Mass freezing. Test subjects. Whenever Harlowe applies a status effect to an enemy, she gains increased cooldown rate. Straight up just good. So the synergy of status effect triggering, if you have that a lot, then you can get that cooldown rate up. So that's cool. Get Up and Go. Whenever Harlowe activates or re-triggers an action skill, she gains increased movement speed. Activates or re-triggers an action skill. I mean, I for one do like me some increased movement speed, so that's probably something I would go for. Alright, Elephant's Foot. Whenever Harlowe's shield breaks, she deals radiation damage to all entangled enemies. Harlowe gains overshield equal to the amount of damage dealt this way. So, when a shield breaks, if anyone's already entangled, she deals radiation damage to them, and then she gains overshield equal to the amount of damage dealt that way. So it's like trigger, trigger, trigger. Shield breaks, the radiation damage is dealt, and then whatever the amount of damage was dealt by that radiation damage, overshield. Cool. That's quite fun. I like that. Seems like a fairly decent skill to trigger multiple times. Bit of survivability. Great red dot. Harlowe gains increased status effect duration. That seems like that would be pretty good. If you can make all those things last long, burn longer, radiate longer, freeze longer, seems good to me. Enriched requires a point in elementary. Harlowe gains increased radiation damage. I love how basic this tree is. This seems like a character that's just flat out, just like, apart from the few skills in the middle, it's like, this just increases fire rate, this increases reload. Alright, let's have a look at branch 1, see if things get a bit more crazy. Practical applications. Harlowe gains increased skill damage. Again, basic, but good. Anything that just makes what you already do better is just good. How much better, I don't know, because I don't have the numbers. Field research. Whenever Harlowe kills an enemy with her unstable energy pocket, and when she kills an entangled enemy while her unstable energy pocket is active, refund a portion of her next action skill cooldown. So she kills an enemy with unstable pocket, and when she kills an entangled enemy while that's active. Is that... So I think my confusion here is, do both these things have to happen? Or is it a case of, if Harlowe kills an enemy with an unstable energy pocket, or if she kills them while they're entangled, and that ability is active, then she gains action skill cooldown for the next one. This could be very powerful, assuming that I'm interpreting it right. So once you trigger that ability and you start killing things, and people become entangled and you start killing them while the action skill is active, you are going to make the next one come around quicker. It's going to depend on how much and if it works that way. Carry the one. Whenever Harlowe entangles an enemy, she gains a chance to entangle another nearby enemy. That is going to massively depend on how much that chance becomes. I would love to see that be like, oh, you have like a 40% chance of doing it. Like, let's make it mad. Make that a mad amount, and that'd be awesome. Or make it 50%, 10% per point. Core sample. Harlowe gains lifesteal against frozen enemies. If she's at full health, she gains overshield instead. That's really good. Already from the base tree, where you just up your frozen and your status afflictions, you can get a ton of health and a ton of shield from that. I can already see the synergies coming through. Break the ice. Convert all chroma accelerated damage to cryo damage. Again, right, because this plays into this. So you probably want that, and you just want to freeze. I feel like this is a character you just want to go full into ice with. Opposing force. Whenever Harlowe freezes an enemy, she gains increased action skill cooldown rate. This effect can stack. So whenever Harlowe freezes an enemy, convert all chroma damage to cryo. Right. Yeah. Okay. So this tree and this particular branch is way, like, everything's linking together here. So already I can see this coming together and being very, very cool. Pardon the pun. Cue ball. Harlowe's unstable energy pocket bounces as it travels and can no longer be manually detonated. Each time it bounces, it creates a radiation explosion. Whenever it strikes an enemy, it changes direction and bounces towards another enemy. This sounds really fun, actually. It's annoying. If you made a build around the fact that you could manually blow things up, then yeah, that's probably not for you. But if you want something to bounce around like a crazy thing, doing that kind of damage, sounds fun. Cold wielding. Whenever Harlowe freezes an entangled enemy, it deals cryo damage to itself and all other entangled enemies. Yeah. So all I'm reading in this entire branch here is, do you want to freeze things? If so, get pretty much all these skills. So you become like a freeze monster. Alright, branch 2. Looking at this symbol and not even reading anything yet, I'm going to assume this is radiation, this tree. Harlowe gains increased radiation damage and irradiation yeah, it is right. I can't speak. Irradiation chance. So are you going to radiate them? Harlowe special purpose magnets. Harlowe's unstable energy pocket pulls enemies along as it passes by, and its detonation deals increased damage for every enemy hit. That sounds like fun. That's the kind of crazy thing you want. You fire it along and all the enemies go like a singularity. Yeah, alright. I like the sound of that already. Branch 2. Nice. Glow up. Harlowe gains critical hit chance with guns against irradiators. Alright, so we're seeing that if you've got Poison Sun, you've got this grabbing all together, and that's all being poisoned, and now you've got increased chance. Nice. I like the idea of this, assuming that you are going for a ton of radiation damage. Fissile launcher. Whenever Harlowe damages an irradiated enemy or an entangled enemy, shoot a radiation dart at another enemy. So is that automatic? Like, does the dart just fire, or do you have to aim it? Because I'm assuming what that means is they are going to instantly be radiated. So whenever damages an irritated enemy or an entangled enemy with this skill. What's the cooldown on that? Is that every single time? Because that would be kind of nuts. Sounds good though. Chain reaction. Harlowe deals bonus radiation damage to entangled enemies. Yeah, so this is the tree that's all about radiating everything. And radiation, bear in mind, was what slag was originally. Radiation was replaced with that because the word slag has a lot of negative connotations to it, even though it means like melted rock and stuff. And they changed it in Borderlands 3 to be radiation. I kind of like radiation damage because it's kind of just good against everything. It's just extra damage. Alright, kill skill. This is the first kill skill we come across, I think. Killing an irritated enemy or killing an enemy with radiation damage leaves behind a radiation hazard. So you're just going to have like stuff everywhere for enemies to run through. Seems fun. Demon Core. As Harlowe's unstable energy pocket travels, it shoots radiation darts at enemies. Whenever Harlowe entangles an enemy while her action skill is active, automatically irradiate that enemy. Right, let's just think about this again. The problem with some of these, they're really wordy. So as it travels, it's firing out radiation darts at enemies, and then whenever an enemy is entangled and her action skill is active, they automatically are irradiated, which seems really powerful. If you've gone into all of this and now you can automatically irradiate people, that's crazy. Dirty Bomb. Whenever Harlowe irradiates an enemy, create a radiation explosion on that enemy. So that sounds fun. I like the sound of that. This tree 2. So tree 1 is like, do you want to freeze things? Tree 2 is, do you want to radiate everything? Both of these trees actually she seems a lot more straightforward. In fact, she seems like the easiest character out of all of them, because it's all like, increases this, increases this, increases this, and then a couple more crazier skills. So what's branch 3 going to be then? Highly efficient. Kill skill. Whenever Harlowe kills an enemy with a skill, restore a portion of her shield capacity. So kill them with a skill, get more shield. Alright. Seems good. Contaminant breach of bloody hell words. Whenever Harlowe's unstable energy pocket detonates, it splits into several smaller, fast-moving energy and okay. So bang, it blows up and little ones come out. That seems fun. Seems like you could potentially, if you've got the right skills attached, you could do a lot. If you had that one skill in here that was they're both capstones, or was it an augment? That's an augment. So if you get the capstone here and they get that, some crazy stuff. Mechanical brilliance. Whenever Harlowe damages an enemy with a skill, she gains increased skill damage. This effect can stack. Skills being your action skill, so the more you damage enemies with skill, you gain increased skill damage, so you can do more of that over time, so it stacks up. That could be potentially very good. The problem is sometimes I think this skill, I can see why it's not in the other trees, but potentially if you've got a bit of this skill in with the frozen or the radiation tree, do some mad things. Eureka! Whenever Harlowe enters fight for your life, she throws a free unstable energy pocket at the nearby enemy, if there are any. That's kind of cool, actually, because it's a good chance that you're gonna, if you're fighting a bigger dude, you just boom right into him. Don't know what if you can manually detonate that as well? Because if you can hit a lot of enemies, then there's potentially a lot of enemies that might die from it. They need to do more stuff with Fight for Your Life. I've forgotten his name. The guy in the second game was DLC, but instead of Fight for Your Life, you've got like you run at people and blow them up, and that's how you get back. Rounding up, a passive. For every enemy her action skill damages, Harlowe gains increased gun damage when her skill action ends. Oh, when her skill action ends. So what's it? So for every enemy it damages, you get increased guns. And is that a percentage, or is that per like? It must be a percent, right? That could be good. That could be good. Alternate fuel source. Whenever Harlowe activates Chroma Accelerator, drain her shield and amp her next unstable energy. That's an interesting thing. So you drain shield and the next one does more damage. That could be really powerful, actually. That's one of those ones you kind of need to see it in action to really get a feel for like how it works. Alright, the Shattering Light. Charge skill. Chroma Accelerator gains charges as Harlowe keeps it readied for the duration of Chroma Accelerator or until all charges are used. Holding the action skill ends the Shattering Light early and refunds a portion of cooldown for every charge remaining. Press action skill, fire a fast moving unstable energy packet consuming a charge. So it gains charges as Harlowe keeps it readied. Right, so while you're about to use it for the duration of that. So it's basically letting you fire out faster ones. and you can refund a portion of it. Okay, that could potentially be good. Lastly, then in this, QED, melee override. Harlowe attaches an unstable energy pocket to her fist and slams it into an enemy in front of her. That sounds like a lot of fun. Just run up to people and just go. That's the sort of thing that I would enjoy. So if all this other stuff ends up doing also affecting this, that could be mad, like mad damage for it. I like the sound of this tree. I like the simplicity of it. I'm not gonna lie. I like the fact. Do you want to freeze people? Do you want to radiate people? Or do you want to do like shield and gun damage and stuff at the bottom one? Very cool. For a character that I genuinely was like, they look a bit boring to use. Their skill trees seem to be like very specific. It's like, do you want to do these things? And I like that. All right, seize the day. So that was the creative burst. Now let's seize the day. See what this is about. Let's see if this is like as easy, because the other one seems like very obvious what you would go for. Quantum immortality. Whenever Harlowe entangles an enemy, she gains health regen. Nice. That sounds fun. Parallel circuit. After triggering or re-triggering an action skill, Harlowe gains increased gun damage. So triggering or re-triggering action skill, more gun damage. Seems good. Pulse drive. Harlowe gains increased action skill cooldown rate, which already is working with the others. I can see that you want to get all three of those skills. Make extraordinary. Harlowe gains critical hit chance with all skills. This chance increases every time Harlowe entangles an enemy. Wow, that's nuts. So that might not be super obvious early game, but mid to late game when you've got that. So you're saying, or this is saying, that you gain crit hit chance, all skills, so no matter what you're using, and every time you entangle an enemy, which is, remember, when you use their action skill, you get an increased amount of that. So let's say that through some trickery or whatever, this can be like a 20% increase overall. That's huge. That's huge. So, seems good. Bright future. Whenever Harlowe triggers or re-triggers an action skill, she gains increased fire rate. Okay, so we've got one for gun damage, one for fire rate. They seem to go hand in hand pretty well. Strange attractor. Whenever Harlowe shoots an enemy with a gun, bullets ricochet off of that enemy onto all enemies in stasis. Interesting. If Harlowe critically hits an enemy, that enemy becomes entangled. Okay, that sounds kind of nuts. I like it. So you can now like ricochet bullets into other enemies that are in stasis. So yeah, okay, that sounds fun. That sounds a fun skill. Negative entropy. Harlowe gains increased gun handling. This bonus is doubled while an enemy is in stasis. Okay, so while everything's got like stasis and all that stuff going on, we're getting a lot of buffs. Peer review. Whenever an enemy enters stasis, there it is again, spawn a homing, rejuvenating projectile that targets Harlowe or her allies once the enemy is slammed, killed, or stasis ends. Right, so yeah, cool. The rejuvenating projectile grants decreased action skill duration rate and increased action skill cooldown rate for... Hang on. Decreased action skill duration rate and increased action skill cooldown rate for a duration. If the target is in fight for its life, they immediately gain second win, and if they killed an enemy. So this second part, so this bit that says it grants decreased action skill duration rate. So it reads negatively, but I'm assuming what that means is it lasts longer, and it comes back quicker. But that it doesn't feel like it should be increased action skill duration rate, decreased action skill cooldown. I think maybe this is the wrong way around. Surely this should say the rejuvenating projectile grants increased action skill duration rate, as in it lasts longer when it's active, and decreased action skill cooldown rate for a duration, so it doesn't take as long. Maybe this is a negative effect, but it feels like the decrease and increase are the wrong way around to me. We'll have to see how that one plays out. That could be good. That could be a very good skill, potentially. Periodic table flip. Harlowe gains increased elemental damage, status effect, application chance, and cryo effectiveness. That's three things. Like literally you're gaining 3 bonuses there. So elemental damage on its own, then how much it triggers, and also freezing. Seems pretty good. Ripple effect. Kill skill. Whenever Harlowe kills an entangled enemy, automatically entangle another nearby enemy. What's not to like? That sounds pretty fun, actually. So you can just entangle one, boom, someone who's nearby also gets entangled. That's the sort of skill that you kind of want. Just like if you're playing, if entangled is like how she gets a ton of bonuses, you want that in your level ups. Too coolant for schoolant. Oh my god. What an incredible name. Whenever Harlowe deals cryo damage, gain increased action skill cooldown rate. Increased action skill cooldown rate. So, hang on a minute. Okay, so what? So increased action skill cooldown then is it cools down quicker, and this is must be it lasts longer. So they have written it the right around. It just doesn't read like how you think it would. All right, cryodynamics. Harlowe gains increased cryo damage straight up. You need one in table flip. This one, but that just seems straight up good. Concurrence. Harlowe gains increased action skill duration for every entangled enemy. That's what I mean. Increased action skill duration. So now every enemy that's entangled, boom, it lasts longer. Oh, this is branch 1, by the way. So it's a basic. This tree doesn't seem. There's some interesting things in here, but it doesn't seem as interesting as the others, or as straightforward as the other one. All right. Wildcat destabilization. Entangled enemies take bonus radiation damage from entangle. Seems good. Whenever Harlowe deals radiation gun damage to an enemy, restore action skill duration, so it makes that longer. Whenever Harlowe kills an enemy in stasis, create a radiation nova. The radiation nova deals damage based on remaining. Okay, so if you've got loads left, boom, it does more damage. Okay, that's a fun augment to that skill. I like that. The augments and the capstones are like the most interesting skills on these trees. Force of will. Whenever Harlowe critically hits an enemy, daze that enemy. Dazed enemies have decreased movement speed and attack speed. Oh, days can stack. Okay, that sounds fun. That's a cool skill. Control group. Kill skill. Killing an entangled enemy restores a portion of Harlowe's action skill cooldown and action skill duration. Straight up good. You want to be using your action skills a lot, so any ability that lets you do that last longer or cools down quicker is good. Slingshot. Whenever Harlowe dazes an enemy, she also entangles them, and then she gains increased movement speed. I like that. So you daze them, you then get entangled, you then get all the buffs from entangled, then you. Like that meme with all the numbers flying at the screen. That's kind of like how I'm seeing this character. It's like there's so much stuff that interlocks so well in this character, or at least it seems like that is. Freeze frame. Harlowe's gun deals bonus cryo damage for every enemy she has in stasis, and that can stack, so you can get a ton of enemies in that. That could be pretty powerful. Falling bodies. Pressing action skill places an additional enemy in stasis at the cost of action skill duration. When stasis ends, automatically slam all enemies down. So you can tag another one, doesn't last as long, but they all slam down. That's fun. Nice way of changing that up. Stunlock. Whenever Harlowe critically hits an enemy, she briefly puts that enemy into stasis. This form of stasis lasts for a short duration until the enemy is shot again. So it's like a quick stun, like maybe like a 1 or 2 second stun. But I love the name of it, Stunlock. That sounds fun. Nobody wants to be stunlocked. Alright, interesting branch. Seems pretty good. I like the fact that, again, with this, there's a lot of that synchronization between skills. Branch 2, Unstable Isotope. Kill skill. Harlowe deals bonus cryo damage with all sources. Straight up, just does more cryo damage. Cold storage. All damage dealt to enemies in stasis is stored. Whenever an enemy is slammed or stasis ends, create a cryo explosion based on all stored damage and centered on that enemy, and also automatically freeze other. Okay, that seems pretty fun. So you store up the damage, you do a big explosion, there's more ice damage, and everybody's frozen. That's the kind of crazy thing that you want if you're going for cryo stuff. Anyway, keep ice on that. All cryo damage Harlowe deals gains lifesteal. If Harlowe's health is full, then she gains overshield instead. This is very similar to the other tree where it's all frozen. These are just different ways of dealing with that cryo damage. But the fact that it gains lifesteal, and then if your health's at full, you gain overshield. That seems pretty good. And that's a 1-pointer. So it's one of those ones that's just straight up. This is a much better bonus to what you're doing as right now. Endothermic reaction. Whenever Harlowe freezes an enemy, create an endothermic aura that deals constant cryo damage to enemies around it. Harlowe's aura, deals increased damage based on her overshield. So the more full, the greater. Wow. Okay, so now I've hardly seen much stuff to do with overshield in terms of affecting skills. So you've got a lot of overshield like this one. Keep that on ice. Now you're doing a lot more cryo damage around you. That seems pretty good. Flash freeze. Whenever Harlowe deals cryo damage with an action skill, she gains a chance to freeze that enemy. I like that. Straight up. Boom. What the chances? I hope that singular point is 50%. Give me a 50-50. Alright, heatsink. Whenever Harlowe freezes an enemy, she gains increased action skill cooldown rate. I will say, let's get these last 2 skills done before we carry on. Triple point. Whenever Harlowe deals non-cryo damage to an entangled enemy, she deals bonus cryo damage to that enemy. If she deals cryo damage to an entangled enemy, she deals increased bonus... Right, okay, I see how this works. So whichever one you're using is going to do the opposite effect. Okay, seems pretty cool. Again, pardon the pun. I like that as an idea, though. Cold Plunge. Whenever Harlowe slams an enemy, create a singularity on that enemy, followed by a cryo explosion. So, boom, suck people in, blah, blah. I will say Harlowe seems like the beginner character in the sense that a lot of these trees have overlap, or they're very simple in the terms of, hey, this is ice, this all stuff works together, or radiation. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but definitely seems like there's, and we'll find out. Branch 3 and we've got the other skill tree that might be more interesting, but I'm definitely seeing a lot more of the similarities across things. But they are different ice skills and things like that. Like that branch is good, but it's just different ways of using the ice. Alright, branch 3. Indiscreet math, or if you're English, indiscreet maths. Harlowe gains increased splash damage. Okay, splash damage. Splash damage is an interesting one because I never found it to be that particularly great in the other games, like buffing splash damage, but I'm sure it is. Inertia. Whenever an enemy Harlowe has in stasis dies, a new enemy is automatically added to stasis. When this happens, Harlowe's action skill duration resets. However, it drains quicker. Okay, cool. I was going to say, resets. That's pretty mad. That's a fun skill, though, because that means, boom, they die, on to the next one, boom, they die, and then it gets harder to keep that going. Experimentation. Kill skill. Killing an entangled enemy causes an elemental explosion on all other entangled enemies. Ooh, okay. I wonder, you're not picking the elemental explosion unless it's random? But is it just flat? Yeah, okay, I like the sound of it. That sounds like a crazy skill. Alright, domino effect. Whenever Harlowe deals splash damage to an entangled enemy, she gains a chance to trigger entangled damage. What? Whenever Harlowe deals splash damage to an entangled enemy, she gains a chance to trigger entangled damage share again. What on earth is entangled damage share again? Oh, whenever she... Right, so I think this is what this is saying is the splash damage to an entangled enemy that gets shared again. That splash damage? I think that's what it's trying to say. That's written a bit weird. Could be good. Sustained reaction. Kill skill. Killing an entangled enemy restores a portion of Harlowe's action skill duration. So this seems to be a tree about keeping your action skill active, which is always good. I think that's a good tree to have, because it means that you kind of configure how you want it to do damage, and then you're like, how long can I keep this going? Because when you get into those bigger fights, you're taking enemies out of the fight, you're dealing damage, you're restasising them. Yeah, I can see this being quite a good way to play. Ground state. This is a capstone. So every time Harlowe slams an enemy, gain increased slam damage and slam damage radius. Enemies in stasis take decreased damage. Right, so when you slam them down into enemies that aren't in stasis, they take it's more damage, bigger radius. However, if they're in stasis, they take decreased. Action skill to slam more enemies in stasis straight down. Okay, cool. It sounds pretty... So you could have a bunch of them slam down like a big wave. Seems really good. Seems like an interesting way of using it here. It's very similar to the last two sirens that have the ability to take people out of the battle. Gordian Knot. So these are one in experimentation, which was... It causes damage to the other enemies. Whenever Harlowe kills an entangled enemy, she gains a chance to instantly fully restore her action skill. That's pretty good. That's definitely a good skill, because then you can just keep doing it over and over and over. I would say very similar to the other tree. Seems good, but obviously with stasis rather than the accelerator thing. Seems good, but not that much different. So let's see how Cosmic Brilliance shapes up, and if this is much different to the other one. Alright. Mains Hum. Harlowe gains increased maximum shield capacity and increased maximum overshield. Straightforward. Always good. Personal observation. Harlowe deals increased melee damage, and her melee attacks gain a chance to entangle. Okay, so we're looking at potentially melee this time. So more damage, entangle enemies. Action at a distance. Whenever Harlowe applies a status effect to an enemy, she gains a chance to apply that status effect to each entangle. Wow, okay. Yeah, stuff like that's crazy, because that means that you can do it to a bunch of people. That's fun. Momentum. Whenever Harlowe entangles an enemy, she and her allies deal increased critical hit damage. And her allies. Okay. Get behind that as a skill for your team. I like stuff that does apply to allies. That's always useful. Well, if you're playing in co-op anyway. Mass function. Harlowe and her allies gain increased reload speed for every entangled enemy. This seems to be about allies now, which I like. I like the sound of this. So now you and your allies gain increased reload speed for every entangled enemy. That could be pretty nuts. Coronal mass ejection. Enemies inside Harlowe's flux generator lose all elemental resistance. Harlowe and her allies inside her flux generator gain increased status effect chance. That's fun. So basically, you're going to become weak to everything. Neutron decay. Whenever Harlowe irradiates an enemy, she gains increased gun damage and it can stack. Okay, this so far is a wild tree. This is quite different. This is what you needed. Blue giant. Harlowe's flux generator gains increased radius. Good. Additionally, whenever she retrieves flux generator, she creates a cryo hazard where it was, and a radiation hazard whenever she next places it. Only one of each of these hazards may be. Okay, cool. So that means you can leave ice trap, or you can put down a radiation trap. Seems good. Cool way of mixing it up. Heat death. Harlowe gains increased cryo efficiency. There we go. Easy. Cryo efficiency is how long it takes to freeze, I believe. Creative overflow. Harlowe deals increased gun damage based on her overshield. The more overshield she has, the bigger the bonus. Similar to that other tree, it's giving another big buff to having overshield. Resonance cascade requires a point in neutron decay. Whenever Harlowe deals radiation damage to an enemy, she gains increased action skill damage. Straight up again, can stack. Potentially very, very powerful in amount of damage, assuming that you've got the right points there. Confirmative reality. Whenever Harlowe shoots an entangled enemy, she and all allies restore a portion of their action skill cooldown. That is huge, because that is you and your allies. Now, depending on how people have built, that's going to massively make their cooldown just quicker. I would say that's a pretty big skill, actually. I like the sound of that. And it's a passive one, so you don't even have to think about it. You just have to keep shooting entangled enemies. Absolute zero. Whenever Harlowe freezes an enemy, she receives a stack of 0 point. For every stack of 0 point, her action skill duration freezes enemies for a short time. That sounds nuts. I can't need to see that, but I like the idea of it. And freezing enemies while using my skill, yes please. Already a bit more nuts. I like the sound of it. Let's have a look at branch 1. Blue shift. While her action skill is cooling down, Harlowe deals bonus cryo damage with her melee attacks. While her action skill is active, Harlowe deals bonus radiation damage with her melee attacks. So it's cooling down. Melee people, they get cold damage. When it's active, they get radiation damage. Cool. I like a lot of these. Like do this, if not do this. Like I like this kind of skills. Unified theory. Harlowe's flux generator gains increased action skill damage. This effect is increased based on how many allies and enemies are inside. Cool. So if you've got a bunch of them inside it, more damage, and including allies as well. Straight up, just a flat way of making it better and dealing more damage. Decoherence. Harlowe deals increased damage with all sources to entangled enemies. Enemies inside her flux generator take further increased damage. So entangled enemies take more damage anyway, and then enemies inside of a flux generator take further increased damage. Okay, cool. So just more damage all round. Latent charge. Harlowe deals bonus damage with guns, melee attacks, and action skills while she has overshield. This is another one that's to do with overshield. Okay, so overshield seems to be the big thing, and can potentially do big buffs. So, assuming there's also items in the game that can help give you shield, and there's types of shield that help give you overshield, I think she's got some potential, quite some mad skill synergy. Feedback loop. Whenever Harlowe entangles an enemy, she gains increased action skill damage, action skill duration, and action skill cooldown rate. So whenever she entangles an enemy, and that's 5 points. That potentially could also be massive, because that's again 3 things that you're affecting there. That means you can do that thing more often and it lasts longer. Potential transference. Charge skill. Whenever Harlowe relocates her flux generator, it teleports to a location in her crosshairs, consuming a charge and creating a shock burst that deals shock damage to enemies inside. Grants a 3-second win to allies and heals allies within the flux generator. What? Okay, that went from being like okay to kind of nuts. Getting somebody up from range with second wind is huge. Healing allies, also huge. Okay, that's a great skill. That's definitely something that I'm playing, hopefully going to be playing a co-op game. This is a potential for this character because now we've got a way of healing from a distance and also getting people up, which is very useful. Runaway reaction. Harlowe gains increased status effect chance. Whenever Harlowe applies a status effect to an enemy, it becomes entangled. That's just, why wouldn't you get that? The whole entangled thing's great. Cool branch. The last two skills definitely are the most interesting ones, or this one definitely. But I like what I'm seeing in this branch. Branch 2, Gamma Ray Burst. Whenever Harlowe re-triggers her action skill, the next shot fired from her gun drains her shield. Okay, this is similar to that other one, wasn't it, where it was like ice damage. Good if you've got enough shield. That's what I'll say to those. Nuclear Winter. Whenever Harlowe and her allies are inside the flux generator's radius, they deal bonus cryo damage. Whenever Harlowe and her allies leave the flux generator radius, they instead deal bonus radiation damage. Whenever Harlowe inflicts cryo or radiation status effects, enemy becomes entangled. Seems good. With a name like Nuclear Winter, I was hoping for a bit more from that skill, but the idea that once you're in or out of it, or you're in it and then you walk out of it, you have bonus damage, that's pretty good. Harlowe's Certainty Principle. Harlowe gains increased gun handling, which is further increased with every enemy in her flux generator. I kind of like the name of that versus what it does. It's like, yep, seems good. Jaunt. Press and hold the melee attack to make Harlowe swap places with a flux generator. I could see people breaking the game with that then. Depending on where you chuck it to, you might be able to get places you're not meant to. We'll see. But that is actually an interesting skill. That's a good get out of jail free if you want to dodge attacks. Yeah, that potentially could be quite the skill. Critical funding. Whenever Harlowe critically hits an enemy, she gains a chance to entangle it and refills a portion of a gun's magazine. That's good. Like, it's already good, but then having the extra magazine refill, I like. Fun sounding skill actually. Exposed core. While her shield is down, Harlowe gains increased status effect chance. Basic for being in this tree, but potentially very good. Violent Horizon. Harlowe's flux generator occasionally shoots radiation projectiles at nearby enemies outside of its radius. Cool. If these projectiles irradiate an enemy, the flux generator then drags them within the enemy. Oh, cool. So it's like tags them and drags them. And we'll call it that. Tag them and drag them. Nice. Retrigger. Harlowe's flux generator creates a singularity burst that drags in nearby enemies and increases the action skill power. This seems like fun because if there's a lot of enemies, it's already doing damage to the enemies. It's now going to drag them in. So, very cool. Meltdown. Harlowe's critical hits with guns deal bonus radiation damage. Flat out, just a good skill. Good extra damage. Can't go wrong with that. Fun Tree, Violent Horizon, and what was the other one? Jaunt. Some interesting skills in this tree. Alright, branch 3. Refraction. Harlowe and her allies gain ricochet chance against entangled enemies. Critical hits double this chance. Ricochets have reduced damage. Fun. I don't know if that's a skill I'd want to go with, but I do like the idea of it because being able to have like the fact that you can potentially miss and still ricochet off something and hit it, quite fun. Perpetual Engine. When Harlowe activates her flux generator, she gains damage reduction and increases action skill duration for each entangled enemy and each additional enemy she entangles while her action skill is active. So you gain damage reduction, which is good, and action skill duration for it. Seems good. Maybe not as fun as some of the other, but seems good. Excited State. Harlowe gains increased critical hit chance. Whenever an enemy is damaged by Harlowe's action skill, the next shot on the enemy will be an automatic critical hit. That's kind of fun. I haven't seen that pop up in these trees, like auto crits. I like it. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Aceration? Harlowe and her allies gain lifesteal against entangled enemies. There you go, that's how you get your health back. Flat, again, very basic in terms of what it does, but potentially that's survivability. Distribution function. Whenever Harlowe's action skill damages an enemy, restore a portion of her and all allies' shield capacity. Restore a portion of hers and all allies' shield capacity. Their shields are full again. So I think the way that's worded is a bit odd, but what it means is their shield comes back, but you're not increasing their shield capacity. You're not losing it. It's the actual shield within the shield. Pencils down. While Harlowe's action skill is cooling down, she grants herself and her allies increased reload speed and fire rate. Very cool. Reload speed and fire rate is you want that stuff. Group study. Harlowe spawns a Halo sidekick for each ally instead of her flux generator. Halo sidekicks automatically fly to each ally and hover near them, granting increased gun damage, fire rate, and reload speed. Action skill retrigger. Overload Harlow's Halo sidekicks to increase this effect. This effect stacks while overloaded. Harlow's action skill duration drains faster. This is a really cool way of changing up. If you like, I don't like how this works. Now I can give you increased gun damage, fire rate, and reload speed. And if you've got your action skill just constantly on, like for a while, that's a huge buff to your allies. That is a really, really cool ability. Annihilation. Harlow's flux generator occasionally throws grenades. If Harlowe and her allies are inside the flux generator and have a grenade equipped, it throws a copy of that grenade. That sounds like bloody mayhem, but also a lot of fun. Alright, interesting character. Seems like, from just reading this, a bit more of the, not basic, basic's not the right word, easier to understand. Like, you know, this thing does all cryo. You want all the points in this, now you do a ton of freeze. This one does all radiation. This particular tree, Gravitar, has a few more things that are different, but Creative Burst is like the most basic tree in terms of you want this, 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 and this skill. That's all going to work together. Now you're going to freeze everything. So maybe the actual action skills. So she also seems like a character that is very AoE based and also team based, like giving buffs to him. I think like a support character, it's like she'd always be the support. You'd probably got like Siren being a support, or like the mage. This is the support character. Then you got the other two, both the Exo Soldier, who's probably a damage dealer, and then a Forge Knight is probably a tank. If you want to go by those terms, that's probably not how it is at all, but you could think of it like that. Seems fun. Probably out of the four characters, the character I'm least interested to play. However, now having read through that, seeing the fact you can freeze a lot of enemies actually does kind of seem appealing. But overall, I like what this character has. I like that it's actually kind of easy to understand what you can do with them, and that's good. Some of the other characters are a bit more complex in some of the trees. This one not so much, but I like that it's very focused. It's very obvious how this character plays and what they do. So all in all, very, very good. You know, this is the last of the 4 videos. I've enjoyed looking at these characters. I'm still a little bit unsure. I think Rafa would be my first choice. So it'd probably go like Rafa, then the Forge Knight, so Amon, then the Siren, and then Harlowe. But I'm soon find out. We'll see how we go when the game comes out, and we'll find out who I end up picking. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. As always, if you like the video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more content on Borderlands, there will be stuff coming out when the game comes out, but other games too. Hit the subscribe button, stick around, and until next video, I will see you then.